So we will call this to order. This is our August meeting, everyone. Welcome. And we'll start with our consent agenda. Has everyone had time to take a look at the minutes and financial statement? If so, I'd either entertain a motion to correct or a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Unless there's any other further details to the conversation, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Heather,
Aye.
Annette,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
and aye. Unanimously passes the consent agenda. Item 5, voting items. All right. I'm going to let our staff take over the recommendations from our acquisition disposition committee.
Yeah, we have two voting items related to our A&D committee's recommendations from earlier this month. One is that there are 4 properties that we had been informally holding for the Ross Community Center. And we approached them about could we transfer these anytime soon? And Jackie and one of her board members came to our A&D committee, and kind of came out of that came this proposal to create a pass-through agreement and to limit the costs, because the main costs really are mowing, that they would assume mowing and insurance costs, and they were going to get some kind of legal document that we could kind of attach to the pass-through agreement. And it wasn't the exact date of when they would acquire was not set, but it was roughly, they said, towards the end of the year, beginning of the year next year, where they would have funding. So if this is approved by the board, we'll create that pass-through agreement, and then that will happen without having to come back to the committee or the board whenever it's time to transfer those.
Nate, in the interim period, will we still be responsible for insuring the properties? So like the Ross Center will take over mowing in the interim, but we'll still cover insurance.
They will also cover insurance,
Okay, cool.
mowing and insurance.
So would the motion look like to approve the development of a pass-through agreement for the transfer of the properties to the Ross Community Center?
Yes.
Then I will make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Are there any other further comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Heather?
Aye. And was that Annette that seconded?
It was Rebecca.
Rebecca got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Annette,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
and Rebecca.
Aye.
And I make it unanimous. Next item from the acquisition disposition committee.
Same meeting. We talked about, there's 2 properties that we were approached about donations. We did title searches, delinquent taxes. These are, the property both have delinquent taxes. One of those properties, the Elliott property, has had a house that was recently demolished, and so both properties there's some interest in them from the land bank because of where they are, in relation to our partnerships, one in Old West End, one in Whiteley. And the recommendation was that we acquire those properties and pay off the taxes, and affirming that the demolition cost for the house on 511 South Elliott is not being attached to the property by the city, and we have confirmation that it is not. So upon approval, we will then contact the donator of properties and get it going.
Okay, so Nathan, are you looking for a motion to approve the acquisition of the properties located at 511 South Elliott and 1911 East Faulkner?
Yes.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
To say that it's contingent on that bill not being attached.
Yes, I will modify my motion to include the fact that the demolition costs at 511 South Elliott are not attached to the tax bill.
Do you have a second for that?
Second.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Heather,
Aye.
Annette,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
and it's unanimous. So staff will make the appropriate actions and begin the process for transfer. Next is a series of updates from various committees. We'll start with the programs committee, which usually is update from our first Friday. Nate?
Yeah, real quick, we had James Heimlich last first Friday. He's the historic preservation officer here in Muncie. He really gave a really good presentation. And coming up it's September 6th, so we're not going to have it on. Let's see, no, that the first Friday is September 6th. I was thinking about Labor Day, but so yeah, lady named Abigail Lane, who's a Ball State grad, and she is I think, a program director at the Inglewood CDC from Indianapolis. She's going to be presenting. That's it for programs.
Nate, do you want to leave that as tentative or has she confirmed?
Tentative. I'm going to leave it till she said she would confirm on Monday.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. Are there any other questions or comments? Moving on, fundraising.
Real quick, yeah, I had mentioned last meeting that we submitted a preliminary proposal to Ball Brothers Foundation for $45,000, basically to support our staff, operations, and there's you have to get approved to then invited to submit a full proposal. So we're working on that. That's due 1st of September. We applied for the Fisher Governance Award, which recognizes outstanding board members. And then we were, as I understand it, we were awarded some BBN funding that we put in for some support over this summer.
And it's not on here, but and I don't know if this is exactly where it fits, but we did get that email from Kelly Huth that the Vista Crescent process is moving forward again.
Yes.
So
that's
hopefully,
that's AmeriCorps, right?
yes.
Okay.
AmeriCorps Vista, that fits together, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Heather kind of led the effort to put in an application for a volunteer through AmeriCorps Vista, and that looks like it's going to be happening. And so it sounds like in the fall we might have somebody that we're going to have for, I think, a year commitment, which is awesome. So. Yeah.
This whole process has been very interesting, and because they stopped it because I think that they didn't know if they had funding, and now they think they have funding again. So just so you all know, we think we might still be getting an AmeriCorps person for the fall.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Um,
go ahead, Annette.
I was going to say that's great. We've used AmeriCorps Vistas. Some of our agreements passed on with it came through NeighborWorks, but we hired, 2 of the Vistas that we had, and yes, typically the service is a year. But I was just curious, and have they talked to you about like your commitment, Nate, for training and all of that kind of stuff?
So Ball State is going to be the actual Vista employer, but we're providing that employee to the land bank.
Okay.
I think that the commitment side lies at Ball State.
Okay. Just curious. That's great.
Yeah, that is great.
Thank you. Unless there's any other further comments or questions, we'll move right along to public outreach.
I will let Hannah take this first point. She's the point person.
So I've been working on updating the website and creating a either like triannual or quarterly newsletter that we send out in the email. For the website, we're adding the main thing is like a project page, and where we include like the Old West End, what we're doing in industry, what we will be doing in Whiteley, the work we've done for 812, and the HARP partnership or the HARP program.
And there's a lot more little changes. But so the website should be getting an upgrade here soon. We're gonna try to create a new page where it's just dedicated to informing the public about the tax sale and the history of the tax sale, and so I'm excited about that. We've also Hannah spent a lot of time kind of starting to kind of explain our methodology, which has kind of come from John's analogy of a mobile chicken coop, and how we kind of move around the city. And so anyways, I think it's going to add a lot to to our website. And then the newsletter, that's something that we'd love to potentially have kind of an additional meeting with relevant folks to talk about. But Hannah's got kind of a format, and we're filling it in. She's just basically waiting for me to dig into her work. But yeah, just trying to do a better job of keeping the public up to date on things that we wanted to talk a little bit more about. I'll go on to the next point, Brad.
Please.
Are there any questions about that? So I'm going to let Ruby talk about this next point too.
So I've been working on a story about the EXH properties, like the acquisition and then like the effects on like the different neighborhoods that like where the properties are. And I've reached out to industry in Whiteley, but I think I'm gonna try and reach out to somebody from Old West End or Thomas Park, Avondale, just to get more, like to show that it's more like widespread than just like two neighborhoods. And then I'm almost done with the first draft, but I still need to like fact check just to make sure I have all the numbers right and everything.
And just to add a little bit there, one thing is that this is something that a lot of people are kind of aware of, and everybody's got different numbers and different kind of like scenarios. And we thought it would be really helpful to kind of really try to nail down the specifics. And so she's been kind of doing investigative kind of journalism and contacting all different kinds of people and looking at different sources to kind of piece it together. And what's precipitated this is basically, I think most of y'all know this story, but a guy bought 150 properties that went through the tax sale, went through the deed sale unsold. And there were about 150 that I think he paid maybe around $20,000 for them. Talked about doing affordable housing development, and he's done nothing. It's created a lot of problems for the neighborhood. It's something that there's, lots of money is being spent on trying to clean up his lack of maintenance care for his own property. But of those 150, 50 have gone tax delinquent. And what I understand is that he's letting those basically just go back to the tax sale. And then he's taken the other 100 and put those in an organization called the First Muncie Land Trust. So he's moved those into a different entity. So I've probably had 5 or 6 phone calls of people saying, hey, I'm interested in this property, because they see First Muncie Land Trust and they think it's the Muncie Land Bank. And we haven't verified, and but I think his strategy is to put him into this other entity that potentially has nonprofit status, and so maybe the taxes aren't owed. I'm not exactly sure. I think there would still be a step of getting a tax exemption from the county, even if so it doesn't mean that they're automatically tax exempt. But anyway, it's just one of those stories that we feel like we talk a lot about, we hear a lot about. It'd be nice to actually have the specifics, and then figuring out what we do with that once we have that. Is that something that we share on our website? Is it something we would potentially put in an op-ed? Is it just something that we talk about with decision makers in the city when we're promoting the land bank as an alternative to this kind of thing? But I'm excited about what Ruby's coming up with. She's very diligent, and so it'll be interesting to see what we come up with.
Thank you for this, Ruby. Like, this is really important.
Real quick, next point, presentations. I'm presenting at the Gento Club on Monday. We're going to be presenting at a state conference in Louisville later this month. And then there's 2 other presentations. I'm not exactly sure when the Civic Symposium is, but then another one later in the year. So always kind of taking advantage of the invitations to talk about land bank and promote land banking. And that's it. So that's it for public outreach, marketing, and communications.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. What's next? Oh, we got an update from our government. We had a big update from MRC yesterday, right, Nate?
Yeah, and this should have probably been a voting item. I think I was originally thinking that there was going to be some back and forth between us and maybe the MRC about adjustments to agreements. So basically, we've been talking and negotiating with the city and the MRC for really since the beginning of the year. Our funding finished at the beginning of the year, so we have no agreement. And so the president of MRC, the mayor, president of the commission, primarily those 3 have been in conversations with me and others about how can we support the land bank. And so you can see the MOU in box, but there's 3 funding sources that have been identified. One is pilot funding for funding that's already in, and as I understand it, so it's $30,000 for the next 15 years, and that increases by 3% every year. That is going to be allocated to the land bank. There is the possibility of additional pilot funding to be added if as pilot funding payments in lieu of taxes. As I understand it, when there's some kind of housing development related to tax credits or LIHTC, they set aside a small bit of funding to go back into affordable housing, and it can be allocated to an organization like the Land Bank that's working on affordable housing issues. So
Nate, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you said this particular pilot is $30,000 a year for 15 years with an increase of 3% per year?
Yes. That's what's been already allocated. But there's a possibility that if there's new deals that are signed, the MRC would be encouraging the mayor to continue to funnel that towards the the land bank. Another source of funding is just the MRC committing to support the land bank with $30,000 a year for the next 3 years. And then the last pot of money is so for our ready funding. I think everybody's aware of this, but just real quick to bring everybody up to speed. We our ready proposal for the Old West End Comprehensive Community Development proposal. We went to the mayor for his endorsement of that project. And he suggested that he wanted to actually include ball up his 2 proposals that are related to downtown through Ready with ours. So our project is now part of a balled up proposal called the Central City Housing Project, which was there was a description in our last board meeting if you missed it, inbox. But yeah, basically that's what's happening. And in our proposal, original proposal, we had set aside $50,000 for land banking. And then the mayor suggested that we bump that up to 80. So in their proposal, they're considering the 80 as part of their support for the land bank. And so that's really what was presented at this MRC meeting. It was one of the MRC members was not there, but it passed 4-0. And so I communicated with our lawyer, Leslie, asked her, because some of the language is a little bit loose, and asked her about enforceability. And you can see her comments there in the agenda. Just, she didn't feel like, she could try to draft up something that talks about a breach of contract and dispute resolution. But she was kind of recommending not to do that, to just basically go with what they've proposed. So Brad, you're welcome to jump in at any time, help me explain this better, if anybody has any questions. But this is what the city has come to, and I think it's it keeps us moving forward. There's more collaboration with the city. I think this collaboration on the Ready proposal can be a really great thing for us. And additionally, there's 2 points in the MOU that talks about better communication with the city, which I feel like, okay, that's an invitation for us to kind of continue to kind of like say, hey, how can we collaborate? So clarifications or questions?
So this is not necessarily what we had asked for, but it is something better than we were getting, and it increases the kind of buy-in of the redevelopment commission in the city, and kind of helps kind of more define that wrapping up of these ready projects that we had talked about as well, in the process of providing us some funding. So yeah, we're going to take it. I think we should vote on it as a board.
Can I ask a clarifying question, just so I make sure I have it correct in the minutes? So the MRC voted 4-0 to approve the pilot, the $30,000 a year for 3 years, and the Ready proposal, or what specifically did they vote to approve?
It's marked as the MOU with the city MRC in the box, but it lays out, they voted to approve this MOU, which lays out the funding agreement from Pilot, the management of new fees from Ready, and the annual pledge, that's the quarterly payments over time. They're all three wrapped up into the same agreement.
Okay, cool. So the MOU includes these 3 sources of funding.
Yes.
Awesome. Good. And then, just to have the voting correct, so the MRC, it was 4-0?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Question. On the I think it's the second and third page. It talks about we have to use the proceeds for 80% AMI, individuals and families.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
the,
just the
Go.
pilot portion or the 30,000? Yeah,
it's the pilot portion, the pilot agreement for LIHTC developments is a relatively new state code that forces this account, and then the money has to be used towards the use of AMI, so right, for affordable housing purposes. So this portion of the contract is an agreement for the pilot fund, as the first bullet point has suggests there. I think that amount corresponds to the same up here. Yep, $30,000. So that stipulations for that amount. The other two bulleted point funding agreements, management fees for new project, annual pledge from the MRC are different than the pilot program. So we'd use $30,000 towards affordable housing solutions, is how we understand it. That is what their legal came back with as well, correct, Nate?
Yes.
We had, this has actually been the pilot issue or proposal, I guess, has been really on the table for about, I want to say 6 months. I want to say since the announcement of the TWG Kilgore project, they had announced the pilot program would be used, and then discussions had already been started having about how that money would be used towards affordable housing, and if it was a possibility for MLB to receive some of it. And this is where we landed after legal review from the city, if that helps.
Does that requirement preclude us from using the funding for administration and operations?
Good question. We're really not sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think part of the code itself isn't well practiced or tested, right? It's relatively new, and I don't know that we have any information on exactly its guideposts. I think that to do that, we would have to carefully document the time that we paid towards Nate that was specifically spent towards some type of housing or affordable housing solution. It doesn't necessarily, remember, like, affordable housing solutions don't necessarily have to be I built affordable housing. It could be providing people guidance. I mean, Pastor is well versed in the multitude of solutions. So I don't know, that we're looking to figure it out as we go, but this is what we got. It's better than what we had so far, I think. But we should probably make it yeah, I think we should probably make it a voting item just to confirm that it was agreed upon by the board. So unless there's, I mean, I think at this point then, unless there's any other, we should take a motion to approve it either as presented or make amendments, but I think it's kind of mute point to amend it. So because it's already been passed by MRC. We should have passed it as they had. If that makes sense, how I think confusing.
And yeah, and this does not preclude the land bank from potentially getting more funding at some point in time, or asking for property from the MRC. That was clarified yesterday at the meeting, and that's been mentioned a couple times that this is kind of a baseline, and even though not what we asked for, for me it does feel ultimately it's like it's a show of goodwill. It's a show of, okay, we want to continue figuring out how the land bank fits in with larger vision for the city.
Yeah, it's absolutely a show of goodwill, and they did call it a living document. So I think that when it comes down to two aspects of MRC's relationship with the MLB, this one is a funding mechanism. And they wanted to say that this could change, right? This could grow, as demands grow, but that there would be a separate track or separate maybe methodology for properties. This wouldn't preclude us from coming back and asking for MRC properties when available. So, but we should probably pass this as presented. Do I have a motion to approve this MOU?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Heather,
Aye.
Annette,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
unanimous. So sign that and get a copy over to them. Do you have the version with Isaac Miller's signature?
I might.
All right, just making sure. Yeah, make sure to sign it, keep a copy and give them a copy, and good job, Nate, working that out
Yeah.
with
Good job.
RC.
Yeah.
I know it's been a long haul this year, but you've stuck with it and you did a really good job.
Thanks.
I do want to
Thanks,
remind
man.
the board, just when it comes to the relationship with MRC, we do have a request for 3 properties along West Power Street, right within the footprint of that old WE project. So we will be working further with MRC on property acquisitions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for input, support along the way.
I think we're down to the data committee.
Oh,
Did I skip the VPLI
yeah,
scholarship?
one point. This is something that we'll have to spend some time on, either as exec committee or everybody together. But so the VPLI scholarship was, again, that was an award from the Center for Community Progress that came from our participation in their conference that they hosted in November of last year. And so they've been just really kind of trying to understand our processes, kind of a local context. Intend was part of that conversation. And this was the final recommendations that they gave us. That program, that support finished a couple weeks ago. So there's some really interesting recommendations there. And so that gives us something to kind of chew on and work through. I think definitely what is coming is recommendation, following up on recommendation number 1, which is trying to systematize our relationship with the county around acquiring property that goes unsold in the tax sale. But there's some other really interesting recommendations there. But I just wanted you guys to see that. Welcome to read through it, and we'll probably be working on that in the near future here.
Oh, that's my fire alarm. Someone take over this meeting. Hold on just a minute.
I can move on to the data committee. I'm going to ask Zach, who just ran away from the camera, to talk a little bit. Zach, Hannah, and Ruby all are really sharp when it comes to software and just kind of maneuvering in that sphere, which is not my strength. We have been using something called the property profile system, kind of as like a property management software. We were approached by Intend a couple months ago about potentially switching to a software that would be a replacement for PPS and then also be connected to Building Blocks. Some of you might be familiar with that. Anyways, we've gone around and around and around with them. We've kind of landed on we're going to stay with PPS. And Zach has been doing some amazing work, thinking about how we could have, right now we have kind of like multiple backbones. So we're entering information here, we're entering information here, and then we kind of pull from different sources, and we're trying to consolidate all into one. So we have one place where we're entering information, and out of that comes kind of visualization possibilities, maps, charts, graphs, and then also kind of our tracking system for more kind of elaborate, kind of like, how are we doing? And so he's been working on that, and he keeps going deeper and deeper into it. But I'm really excited because I think we're on the verge. And so, anyways, Zach, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. Explain a little bit more.
Is there anything specific you want to talk about?
Can I ask a question? So just out of interest, so you, Nate, you said that that we have several systems that we currently put information into, but that we're going to pare it down to one entry. What will be the one entry, like the first entry system?
I'm gonna tell Zach. I'm gonna ask Zach to.
The goal is to have our one system be PPS.
Okay.
Michael coins it as the one source of truth, because right now we're entering, we were entering data into just an Excel spreadsheet for the majority of our property tracking information, and then we'd also enter it into PPS, and sometimes it'd be conflicting. But our goal is, and what we're working towards, is just to put everything into PPS. Hannah and Ruby spent a bunch of time putting physical files on the PPS to make sure everything's up to date. And then we may be Summer right now, who's the software engineer with PPS, has been working with me to write some formulas to put some decently extensive data analysis onto Beacon itself, so that it's readily available for us when we need to present information.
And so he mentioned Michael and Summer. Those are folks that work with Cuyahoga Land Bank, which is the supplier of this software, and they kind of offer us IT support. And so Zach's been working with them. And so PPS, yes, is the one source of truth. And then out of that, we're going to be able to run economic analysis about our impact. We're trying to figure out ways to show our impact and looking at assessed value, looking at different things. And then on the other side, kind of the visualization part. Mapping, and we want this all to be live. We want this, we add a little bit of information in PPS, and all those things just kind of update and stay live. And then so it's going to be a big jump in our internal systems once we get this figured out.
Thank you, Zach, for knowing how to do all of that.
Yeah, that's what I say. Last point, I was talking about this before the board meeting started officially, but Brad and I are co-teaching third year planning studio using there's 20 students in the class. Zach and Ruby are in that group, and we're going to be working in the Old West End. Class is focused on community development, community engagement, neighborhood planning, but we're asking specifically for the students to do kind of three main projects. One is housing needs assessment, which is going to be an abbreviated housing needs assessment. As I understand it, a normal needs assessment might cost up to $50,000, and it's professional. So we're going to use students for as much as we can. We're going to ask students to provide information about if we were going to offer kind of like a complimentary repair program for existing homeowners, thinking about how we can support existing homeowners and not just new homeowners. And then also thinking about the Old West End is, if you're trying to create a market in a place. And one possibility is there's books written about it. How do you attract the creative class to to neighborhoods. And so I'm going to asking the students to think about Old West End as an artistic community hub, and how what are the things that neighborhood would need to attract those kinds of folks. So anyways, that's going to be a lot of my time is going to be pulled into that class over the next 3 or 4 months, as well as Brad's.
I just want to say I'm super excited about all of this. And if there's any way that the Muncie action plan can be of assistance as you all are working, especially on the abbreviated housing needs assessment or the repair for existing homeowners, please let me know, because those are things that are definitely a part of the large scale plan for our community. So if I can help or the task force can help in any way, let me know.
Thank you.
Also, Nate, I would be happy to share, since we ran a owner occupied repair program for several years.
Yeah.
I would be willing to, Brandon and I are very much willing to share our experience and some things that we came across and all of that, if that's something that would be helpful.
Yes, that would be helpful. I'll be following up. So I think that's
All right,
that's
sorry,
all.
everyone.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
I'm sorry, my building's fire alarm's being tested. No one told me. Okay. Yeah, I heard some of the end of that, and thank you, everyone. It's going to be exciting end of 2023 or 2024 and the first semester for Ball State. So, and thanks, Zach, for the update on the data committee on the software, going through that. Is there any other I think there was an end of summer update.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, we saw the students, the interns, Hannah, Ruby, and Zach. Their internship is kind of ending. We are going to be having conversation about them continuing in some capacity. They've all been great. Really, like, more than anything, just like really into it, which is fun when you get folks that are into it. But I don't know. Did you all want to share any more about some of the work that you've done? Or anything else?
Did you all learn something from the semester or the summer?
I mean, I've got all out data nerd this summer, which has been nice. I mean, I've learned some coding for some data analysis, and I've learned a lot of things in Excel that I never thought I'd need to know, and same with ArcGIS. I mean, what I'm working on right now, if it's of interest to anyone, is the tax sale mapping. We're trying to make it available to our neighborhood partnerships. What is available to them that we could maybe help them acquire through the tax sale. So I'm using ArcGIS story maps with a map I made to have extents of the neighborhoods, and then the colors are showing how many times it's been through the tax sale since 2020. So I joined the different tax sale records back to 2020, and then each parcel has pretty extensive data on it that I wrote scripts to scrape from Beacon. So it has like the combined dues and Spring Falls, like unpaid amounts, and then the last 5 assessments that have taken place on the parcel itself. So you can see how that assessment has changed over the last 5 years. But I've done this type of analysis for EXH, and I'm doing it for all of the land banks properties right now too.
That
That's
looks
awesome.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, not to keep everyone, we've really appreciated though the 3 of yours works, and we really look forward to potentially continuing to work with you all. It's been great. You've been a great asset to our operations, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there is anything else from the board or public, our next meeting will be September. I don't have it in front of me.
September
20th.
20th.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
It sounds like that's unanimous. Have a good weekend, everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.